Welcome to the Success in Africa podcast with Dr. Modupe, your weekly dose of leadership vitamins to make you successful in Africa.
Welcome back to the Success in Africa Leadership Podcast. My name is Dr. Modupe Taylor Pierce. This is the second of the 3 episodes that we're having with Caren Wakoli. If you are new to this podcast, this is a weekly broadcast that we have specifically for the purpose of showing you how to become successful by highlighting the journey of others. So I encourage you to watch the previous one as we continue with our journey with Caren Wakoli, the founder of the Emerging Leaders Foundation. So Caren, you've shared with us a bit about your background. We know that you were you are the oldest of 10 siblings, and you had to take on a lot of responsibility at a young age because there wasn't a lot of money around to be able to help do that. And you love to read, and you were able to be educated both at school and at home. Take me now through the start of the work that you do with youth. How did that get started?
You may not believe it, but I feel like it got started in childhood. Yes, because the story I have shared with you got me really curious. I'm a curious person. I was a curious child. I started asking questions. How come some people have a lot more than maybe even what they need in a lifetime, while others are barely scratching the surface, barely surviving, barely making it? Yet now, like for us, we're going to the same river, drinking the same water, breathing the same air, working just as hard. And I'm like, really? Then you go to high school and you have visiting days when parents and family members come to visit, and you see the disparities. Oh man, crazy, crazy, crazy. And I started asking that question. Why? How come? And that questioning led me to Emerging Leaders Foundation. But it was progressive from childhood to high school education to university education, then getting involved in student politics, then national politics, then quitting politics, and starting to represent young people in boards here and there within the country, in Kenya and across the continent, then getting to a point which was, I would call it the tipping point, where I said, this is a point of no return. I better stop doing this work in the media, and actually pursue passion, pursue purpose in life. So I say it started in childhood because that's where the questioning began. And the more I asked the questions, the more I read books, the more I met all the people and really asked questions. And some people would actually get mad. I remember one time meeting this older guy, and I asked him, okay, so what is your purpose in life? How does one become an excellent leader? And he got so mad, he said, I am 50-something years old. I've never thought about purpose. And here you are asking me about purpose and, stuff like that. But that led me to the realization that really the quality of life we live is determined by the quality of leaders we have. And the quality of leaders we have is determined by so many factors. The whole question we keep asking, are leaders born or made? I believe leaders are both born and made, and especially the making part from the experiences, the study, the mentorship, the coaching, and all these things. That is how leaders get made. And I said, if you look at a family, an institution, a society, or even a space where people are thriving, when you keenly analyze that, you will see that the foundation for that is actually leadership. Somebody somewhere is taking leadership responsibility, making decisions, nurturing people to grow, growing themselves to then be able to grow and be better. And again, if you look at family, nation, continent, institution, political party, any entity, or even somebody's life, because people can also be their own institutions. Look at how people are people are living life and the quality of life and the outlook they get to have and the impact they get to have. Again, it's a question of leadership. When we talk about inequalities, when we talk about poverty, when we talk about food insecurity, poor infrastructure, when you talk about kids not being able to go to school to access good quality education, because I know education is such a great equalizer and education makes such a big difference in the lives of individuals, especially children. When people can't afford those things or can't afford good quality healthcare, again, it's a question of leadership. We have situations where we have leaders who just mind all about themselves, them, their families, or even just themselves without their families or their tribes. And that's it. They get corrupt, they amass, and there's also an element which we said we'll come to, which for me is a big element. It's about healing and really doing inner work. You find people are so empty within that we are searching for meaning. Is it in relationships? Is it in addictions? Is it in money? Is it in power? Is it in wealth? And we amass and really wound nations and wound millions of people in the name of amassing to be wealthy and you know all that. And still that is insatiable, because meaning in life and our worth is not external, and it does not come from how much money we have, how much land we have, and how much property.
How have you manifested what
Yeah.
you wrote about leadership being really about emotional health, self-awareness, inner peace, and not just competence, charisma, strategy? How have you manifested this and transmitted it to the people who are the beneficiaries of the Emerging Leaders Foundation?
Yeah, okay. Thank you so much. That's a really, really important question. And I totally believe in that, in what I wrote. And I believe that our state of well-being determines the quality of our leadership and how we show up. And this means so much to me, and it also means so much to Emerging Leaders Foundation. And as a result, we have actually decided to institutionalize well-being and wellness within the organization. So one of the things we do is every morning we have something we call morning devotion, and it's thematic based. We have themes. Every month has a theme, and each person gets a turn when they get to lead the conversation. So some lead from personal experiences, storytelling, films, TED Talks, exercises within the office, from the Bible, from whatever source you're able to share. Some of our themes have been like, who am I? Our theme for this month is self-image. Our theme for last month was the power of thoughts. Sometime last year, the theme was forgiveness. A different time, the theme was healing. So you know, as we get to delve deeper into the subject, it actually allows individuals and team members to be able to really interrogate, where do I stand in terms of my self-image? What are my core values? What do I need to change about my habits or my core values? Are they supportive of who I want to be and who I am becoming, or is there a misalignment? Something else that we get to do, which I find really, really critical, is feedback and communication. We do believe that each and every team member has the best ideas, and we listen to each other. We respect each other equally. There's nothing like seniority, titles, and all those things. No, those things do not matter. What matters is, does everybody have room to share their opinion, share dissent, share an alternative view? And we take all that in and are able to then execute what we need to execute. So for me, I have discovered that feedback is a critical tool when it comes to personal leadership and personal development as a leader. An example in point is at the height of COVID, we were wondering I was wondering as the team leader, how are people doing? And so we would just have general conversations, and call it a day. But one of my colleagues came to me and said, Caren, have you had coffee with each team member to get to actually ask them how truly they are doing in their own personal lives, whether themselves, with their families, at home? Because then the government gave a directive that we all needed to work from home. And some people were suffering. I didn't know that, and I asked him, okay, so I think let me start with you. And he told me what he was going through. I was like, what? Then I met the different people and discovered things, and I said, oh man, we have to take care of each other. We have to show up for each other. We have the introverts. For some of them, they were thriving in that season. We have extroverts. Issues about mental health, mental wellness, ability to be productive was coming up, and oh man, that was a tough season. But as a result of that, I decided to introduce something we call Shadow CEO or Shadow ED, Executive Director, where each and every team member gets 2 weeks to become the Executive Director, gets to go to meetings with me, have negotiations, or lead the team, have personal conversations with team members, get to observe what is working, what is not working, and at the end of the 2 weeks, give a report and then hand over to somebody else. And that is also just a chance for everybody, number one, to know that everybody is a leader. Everybody and any person can become the executive director or the CEO of the organization. And I have also come to learn that, you know how the top leadership would just know maybe 10% or 20% of what is really happening. So this particular system has also really brought to the fore things that have not been public for us to address, issues around trust, performance, well-being, and stuff like that. The other bit is about rest. We take rest seriously, and so we've made sure each person gets to go on leave when they need to go on leave. And then other than the annual leave and the study leave and the sick leave, we also have a week within the year when all team members are just allowed to go and be with themselves, rest, don't work, just go and reconnect with who you are. Like that is really critical, because then if somebody is not doing well, their work will not be well, the organization will suffer. But when people are doing well, their families are well, their relationships are well, their work-life integration is balanced, then their work will also really be good. And then accessing therapy to every person within the organization, those who wish to access it to get support, they have access to that. Yeah. Those are just some of the ways.
Allow me to challenge you again.
Yes.
Somebody listening to you will say, yeah, that's great because you have money. Your organization has money. That's why you can do rest and you can do this. So answer for me this. When you started in the early years of the organization, because there are people listening to this podcast who have a dream, they want to do something that's, social entrepreneurship, etc. But their first problem is, where do I get the money from? How did you fund or get funded Emerging Leaders Foundation? Tell us how it happened.
Dr. Madupe, you know what? I have to respond to that question about money first, money versus well-being, and then now go back to social entrepreneurship. So, you know what? You do not need money to practice well-being and wellness. There are times when my colleagues and I, we have something we call Flexi Friday, which is one Friday in a month is a free Friday. You go home. Another Friday, and it alternates. Another Friday we go for workout. Another Friday we go do community service for either mentor kids in a school or something like that. Another Friday we go play some games, board games, indoor games, and stuff like that. We don't need money to work, to be well. We don't need money to brainstorm on ideas. We don't need money to talk about who we are and get to discover how we discover purpose in life. I know money is so important, but the money is so important. But if the only thing one has is money, oh my goodness, I think that is the highest level of poverty. There has to be more than money, surely. Now, let me go to your question on social entrepreneurship. Somebody out there wishes to start a social enterprise. This is a really, really important question. It's a good question. Did I tell you the story when we met about Emerging Leaders Foundation, where year one there was no funding, year two no funding, year three no funding, year four no funding, year five no funding? Did I tell you that story?
No.
You know what? I think at some point, I think when you and I met, I talked about failure, but maybe I didn't delve deeper. I think that was the first brush with me on failure. Because when I started Emerging Leaders Foundation, this was 14 years ago, I knew that I needed to put in work, that it wasn't going to be easy. I knew that. I was well aware. But I did not know that it was going to take me 5 years, a solid 5 years. I look back and I'm like, oh man, some of those days were the most difficult. I remember days when I cried myself to sleep and I kept wondering, God, did you call me to do this, or did I call myself? Or how possible is it that God can plant a passion, a dream, a vision in you, knowing very well you're going to fail? Like, really? Applied for funding, nothing. Went to do pitching to investors. I was either number 2 or number 3, but the funding would only go to number 1. Then time came, I think year 3, when I decided to start doing consultancies to then make ends meet. Because then remember, being the eldest, I'm taking care of my siblings, I'm taking care of myself, I'm taking care of the organization. And I remember some of my friends sitting me down, holding me accountable and telling me, you know, Caren, please stop being foolish and too ambitious, because it is children from rich backgrounds that start organizations, because failure is inevitable. When moments of failure come, their parents chip in. But for you, your family actually needs money from you. And failure is going to knock on your door. What will you do? And I listened, but then a part of me was like, okay, so if I go back to employment and yes, make money, what about purpose? That last day when my maker calls me, what will I answer to him and say I did with all this experience and wealth of knowledge I have about equipping and supporting young people to be the best they can be? Like, I know the one question God will ask me when he meets me is, Caren, I gave you capacity and everything you needed to support young people and raise a generation of leaders. How many lives did you touch? And so I said, you know, money is really good, and there's a temptation to actually go and get it and just get lost in it. But can I pursue this passion and still be able to earn a living? And I decided, yeah, let me disregard this advice and actually go on. And really, that came to pass, because I did fail, not once, not twice, not thrice. I think the hardest year was 2015. We submitted, by the end of the year, we had submitted and responded to calls for proposals, over 50 of them.
Wow.
Yes. But guess what? We only received 4 responses. Two of those responses were that those organizations only fund big money, and ours was a small entity, small budget. No. And the other 2 were asking for favors, whether it is 10% of what they would give us, and we find a way of accounting. And I was like, really, I want to build an organization that is values driven. So if I give this bribe, then I'm building the foundation to be faulty. Like, I won't be able to do the work that I want to do for the rest of my life. And oh man, it was difficult. I started doing the consultancies, and one of the mistakes I made earlier in the journey was I had volunteers, and so whenever I'd make money, I'd give the volunteers, three of them, transport money and communication money. So essentially paying, but not paying myself. Then later discovering that, oh, you have to pay yourself first. That is one key lesson I learned for social entrepreneurs. Then I signed up for Acumen Fellowship to learn about social entrepreneurship, because I then discovered that I got almost everything wrong, because the value proposition that we were offering was what we were good at, that we wanted to give the world. But we were essentially supposed to look at society and see what is not working, where are the gaps, and then how do we use what we are good at to fill, the gaps. So the value proposition was off from the word go. And I decided, I need men and women of integrity, men and women I respect, men and women who've done stuff, to then come sit on the board, hold me accountable, teach me, hold my hand. And so reached out to some people to become board members. I was so grateful for the first board, amazing team of men and women. Came, gave guidance to the organization, developed the strategic plan, developed the value proposition. Then slowly by slowly started, making headways. And one of those days I asked myself the question, I'm waiting for money to come for me to do this, for me to offer mentorship, but money is not coming because I'm doing nothing. I'm waiting. You have to do something for there to be a reaction or a result. And then I asked myself the question, do I need money to do storytelling? Do I need money to mentor young leaders, especially student leaders in universities? Do I need money to get started? And I said, no.
Yeah.
I said, I just need to show up and find young people and start talking to them. And that's exactly what I did. I went to the University of Nairobi, found this team of young women who were looking for a speaker for International Women's Day celebrations. They had targeted female politicians. None of them was saying yes. And I told them, you know what? I can be your chief guest. And they said, okay, fine. And then I went. After the event, a number of girls came to me and said, Caren, would you be my mentor? Would you be my... I said, yes, yes, yes. And then started with 3 girls, then 5. Then they invited their friends, grew to 13, 20, 27. And then the rest is history. And so I keep sharing this lesson that never underestimate the humble beginnings. Everything great starts small with an idea, and then you take the action to bring it to life. But in 2017, sorry?
I said amazing.
Yes.
Amazing. I mean, oh my goodness, I'm bursting. I'm bursting.
Can I add something?
Yes.
In 2017, I think I got to a point where I said, this is not making sense. That I really love this, and I see how this is solving the challenge Kenya is facing, Africa is facing, of bad leaders. Because then even in that small way, we would meet at the Arboretum with the girls. I was seeing transformation. They would come and share stories of change. But then the economic side of things was not making sense. And I came to a place where I said, I think this is it. Let me call it quits. And I told my younger siblings, hey guys, I think, because all of us were then staying together, I told them, hey guys, I think I've come to the end of the journey. You guys need to work hard, get jobs very fast, because I'm not going to go on with this journey. I have to go get a job or something. And one of them said, okay, but Caren, you've come too far to quit. And then somebody else chipped in and said, but Caren, God cannot have brought you this far to leave you here. It's been over 5 years. And then the other then said, okay, then you're saying you've hit rock bottom, that you've really failed and you've hit rock bottom. Can you turn that rock bottom to be like a solid rock upon which you're building this foundation? It was beginning to make sense, but not much. And by then, I was serving as the chairperson of the board of the Youth Congress, and a civil society organization here in Kenya. And Ford Foundation wanted to fund them, but they needed to meet their chair first. So I go to this meeting, we talk about the Congress, and they said, yeah, we're going to give them funding. And then I tell the person, who was meeting that, I also serve with young people. This is what we do. And he said, oh yeah, I had already done some research about you and I know a bit about Emerging Leaders Foundation. Tell me more. So I tell him the story. And by this time, 5 years, I've been telling stories, but nothing comes out of the session. And so I was, like when you're clutching at the straws, I just said, anyway, let me just share the story anyway. And then 6 months down the line, when I was on the verge of calling it quits, this gentleman from Ford Foundation called Ivan, a Ugandan, calls and tells me, Caren, we're going to entrust you with this funding for this 1 year. We hope that you will put in the work and give other donors inspiration and hope that it's helpful and meaningful to invest in youth organizations, even those that have no systems or structures, because then you will have built the system. That 1 year, we worked so hard, and later we were the organization that was mentoring other smaller organizations run by for young people. So those days were difficult, crazy, but guess what? I have learned many lessons, including money does not just come to you because you have you have this idea that you want to do something great. No. Be strategic. Have a clear value proposition, clear mission. Learn about social entrepreneurship. Learn about setting up systems and structures in place, because without systems and structures, institutions cannot come to invest in you. You cannot be attractive as an institution to a donor or an investor to come invest in you. So build the systems and infrastructure. Those things are so critical for that funding. So, yeah.
Ooh, wow. So much gold. I'm just bursting, Caren. Thank you so much for sharing. Wow, what an amazing story. That, you needed to spend time in the wilderness in order to test your resolve.
Yes.
You needed to have the systems and structures, which included, a board, procedures, etc., so that you could be trusted. You needed to understand that it is more important to have a purpose, that then drives the money rather than the money driving the purpose.
Yeah.
You understand now that whether the quality of life is determined by the quality of leadership. And in reality, you had to transform for the organization to be transformed.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. That's just amazing. And another thing I'm taking away is the fact that you failed many, many times before you succeeded. Submitted over 50 responses to calls for proposals, and didn't win any, including those who wanted you to violate your values, but you stuck to your principles. This is amazing. Folks, I hope you guys are learning so much. We're going to go into the third segment. Please subscribe, like this podcast if you're getting something from this. And in the third segment, I'm really going to start asking Caren questions about Africa and the future of Africa and the dream that she has for Africa and what she's doing to transform. I'll see you next week.
Tomorrow belongs to those people who prepare for it today. See you next week.